Hey guys.
Hey, we're at another episode of Crazy Peas. Episode 4?
Yes.
Awesome stuff. So, today, or tonight, we're going to talk about some random shit like we always do. Um, Tonight's focus is going to be a bit more stories like we last week. We're going to try to stay away from the one topic that he loves to talk about. Um, but yeah, this week we're going to talk about a bunch of random stuff like we always do. And yeah, so how are you doing it tonight, Tim?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. I'm Thomas Paxton.
I'm Tim Potter.
And yeah, so we went to go tonight to go see about getting me a laptop. Actually, it's kind of random and out of nowhere. I mean, not really out of nowhere per se. It was just something that like we wanted to try and do. Because I haven't had a laptop of my own for like one that works anyway in years. Because I had the school laptop and that laptop the power part for like plugging in the power adapter to power it on and charge it went out a little over a year and change ago. So I was asking my one brother-in-law, his younger brother, to charge it and stuff, and or at least to get it fixed, with a solder, and that never happened. So uh, now the laptop itself is just sitting underneath my desk, just dead to the world and everything. So yeah, I believe it is my phone. Yeah, it's just going off nonstop. Because, like, news and Facebook and Twitter and all that
Oh, I
other
just
media
figured I
stuff.
just got hearing a buzz. Okay,
Yeah.
on my phone, nobody wrote nothing.
Yeah, nobody came into the chat room and said anything, so.
It's Alan. Tell him to go watch the podcast.
No, it's not Alan.
No, if it was, I'd be like, we laugh, homie.
Yeah, no, it would show up as a phone call. Because, like, right around 10 or 12, he's been calling me right around that time because he's bored and he's at Maverick and he's got nothing else to do with his life except for be bored at Maverick and be pissed off at the world. And
what?
so he's kind of like the clerks that you see on the movie Clerks, is the fact that he's got nothing better to do than be pissed off.
He's at work?
Yeah. So he'll call me when he's at work at Maverick and he'll storm about the world and he'll talk about how bored he is or talk about, his dog that, he's debating on whether he's going to put down or not because the dog keeps, pissing and shitting in his house and the dog is like 10 years old. And so, that sort of thing. Tim's face is like confused.
Well, no, because it's the thing. Well, is he too lazy to put a diaper on the dog? Because I know they have diapers for dogs.
It's
and
not even his dog.
It's his in-laws' dog.
Then give it back to your in-laws and...
They're the ones that's going to do that. That's the thing.
That's what they talked about doing, yeah.
Hey, can you toss me my headphones?
Well, if that's what they have to do, that's what they have to do.
What?
Ooh, what?
Headphones in the cubby
Kobe.
I mean,
To the Twitch. Yeah.
it's a pen.
That's the left side. Is that the one in front of you?
No?
There
Right
is
side.
only like that's a charger. I'm not sure what the hell you're talking about, honey.
It's not here, good.
The kids must have took it. I had
Probably.
headphones on my desk. Sad face. I guess I'll just have to listen to TikTok and try to be quiet.
Go downstairs.
Or maybe you could just hang out there and stuff, or you can join the show.
You?
No,
My
you're our...
face is naked?
Dude, you're our background noise. Remember last episode? You laid over there and was talking crap. Nobody could hear you except for us. Well, they could hear you. But you were like a whisper in the background. It was kind of nice. I actually watched it last I always watch my Twitch after we're done streaming.
What do bills do this week? Not even.
I'm not sure what it's talking about unless it's like
Subscriptions. That's what I'm thinking.
the cash net that I stopped paying months ago.
Stop.
But
Do not scratch up my bed.
stopped paying the loan companies, months ago, the loan sharks. To try and actually pay them off sometime soon when we have money for it. But we gotta pay gotta live, gotta take care of our family. But yeah, no, it's been a kind of an interesting week this week. I've been trying to get around to actually putting projects together and get things done and things ball rolling. It's just really hard when you've got your work, your job, and then my three kids that are under 6, and we've got our routines down and everything. Just the
Yeah.
routines tend to overtake everything else, and then you got wifey poo in the background there that's been working on like her applications with her cats and drawing her cats for the last 3 or 4 days in a row. Ever since I got her that pen, the tablet pen to draw.
She said the first day she worked like, what was it,
12 hours.
6 hours
No,
on.
it was like
on,
it was 12.
No, on his. Drawing one or two of the characters.
No, I was working on it.
She hasn't worked on the characters for my book ever since she got the tablet pen. It's always been Pussy. It's been Pussy with paws.
Stop making fun of my cat OCs.
No.
Like that's all she does
I'm a
is draw
proud
cats.
furry. Suck it. Go get a fursuit where it fucking is.
Oh, if we're gonna do furries, you needed to put Super Saiyan 4 Brawly on here. Not regular Brawly for the background.
Yeah, she's all about her cats. She's all about like that's what she does. She does roleplay groups. I've gone into Google Docs just to kind of see where I need to go with my books and stuff because this computer is the main one that I am able to do anything on. I've tried doing it on my computer, but for some reason the kids decided to lose the batteries for the keyboard, and it's just weird trying to write on a desktop that has it's literally a dinner table, it's one of those portable
It's a TV tray.
TV trays that they have on the carpet and stuff. I've been writing on I was writing on a TV tray for months.
Apparently Verizon's in 4 days.
Hey.
And Comcast is.
I already paid
Dude.
Verizon.
Okay.
It was
Stop
like
talking about
$280.
bills on the live stream. That's bad. 1, 2. You were talking about the thing, like that one.
Yeah, the TV tray.
Okay. Well, because you have ones like that, and then you have the old school ones that are metal with the clips, and it's a metal tray,
And
but
yes,
it's got
it is-
little plastic bullshit clips.
And yes, I just drank caffeine soda out of a giant 100-ounce cup. I'm not going to get through that whole thing tonight. Promise you. I'm going to get like quarter way into it, and I'm going to put the rest away.
Or the kids will drink it.
Using it for tomorrow.
No, you must hide it from the minis.
He doesn't hide it. He just falls asleep with it out in the open.
Put it in the closet sometimes, and I still find it. But it's because
The
Ariane,
little people, they find
well,
everything.
Ariane and Cass are obsessed with candy. Like when we started realizing that we were putting all the Halloween candy in the closet stuff to try to keep them away from the kids.
Uh-huh.
Kids found them, and all they would do is just grab the candy bag and just be like, and then suddenly we came up to the loft and found out they came up to the loft and sprayed all the candy everywhere, and were giggling as they were jumping up and down on the bed with candy and shit. It was crazy.
They were cranked out like they were on.
Oh yeah, no,
drugs.
they always get cranked out. You'd think that my children were on crack, but they're not. They're just on candy. But yeah, no, it's
And
crazy.
Sugar's more addictive than cocaine, they say.
That they say. I wouldn't know. Wouldn't be kind of be the judge of that. But yeah, yeah. So this last week I've been trying to get my videos up, my reader reviews. I know I talked big game about that last podcast. I was gonna try and do Soul, and I was gonna try and do a couple more other videos. Didn't end up happening. I have so much stuff that came out this last week, but it's fine. I guess it's the second week of January. So tonight and tomorrow I'm going to be working a lot more on that, and then this upcoming week I'm going to try and do a few more video reviews that are different. But that's me on my side of things. I also have book titles for the next 4 or 5 books that are in my saga, as well as novellas, so that's a thing. Tim, what have you been up to?
Just keeping myself busy. I literally do nothing 90% of the day except for work out for an hour or 2 a day and then go goof off.
DoorDash?
And other stuff.
Yeah, I'm just this is Thomas with Verizon. That's me. 8 hours a day.
Hey, I gotta try to make a little bit of extra money, and with the rule that they put through last year that I didn't find out about until I think it was March,
Yeah.
that they went through last year, 2020, in January, that you can make up to 900 and something, and they won't take away your disability. Cool, so I make $800 a month. Started that in October. They don't take away my disability, so I can keep paying my bills. Of course, even if they took away my disability, which I hope they don't because I'm so disabled I can barely do the DoorDash. Hi, Dave. And the funny part is that's kind of hard to do and make lots of money. But I mean, if I was gonna make lots of money, I'd never be at home, never see my kids. So that would suck for them and me.
Yeah.
Because when I did that for a week when it was slow, just to make a couple $100 minus what I'm putting aside for taxes, they ended up, we don't see you enough. It's like, okay, I gotta dial it back. Go out there in the busy times.
Yeah. Okay.
The last like 2 hours of them being awake. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Give me hugs and kisses. I'm gonna go run off, make money. You've seen me all day.
Yeah. And for me, it's like I get up at like 9, 8 or 9 or 10. Usually, it's like right before I get a fucking clock on to work. It's pretty bad, but I get exhausted. And then like 10 till like 10 to 12. And my first break's at 12. Then I come out to the living room, go upstairs, check on kids, check on wife. Usually Amber's on the computer, or she's trying to help Aaron with his homework or whatnot. Or the kids are actually in school, and the kids this last week were out of school because we were trying to make sure that they didn't have COVID. That was another thing that's happened this last week, which is why I didn't do any reviews, is because I was busy trying to make sure that they weren't sick, and I was busy trying to make sure that they weren't, and the wife was just down, out for the count. Like, that was what she was doing when she wasn't drawing, was she was just
Dead to the world.
yeah, she was on the couch, and I came out to the living room and saw her laying on the fucking couch, and I was like, so this is what we're doing. We're just sleeping. And she's like, I feel like ass. And I'm like, you feel like ass? She's like, I feel like death. And I'm like, so you feel like death and death? And she's like, wait, did I say ass? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I meant death. And I'm like, okay. And so I had to go get OJ and got to go get Sunny D, just pump them with the vitamin D and vitamin C so I could build their immune systems back up. Because here I am freaking out.
Have vitamin D in it, right? It even says so on the bottle.
Oh, whatever. I was trying to get something that would build your immune systems back up. Part of it worked.
Why don't you shut up and get you vitamin C?
I mean, the kids fucking, when they drank, Cass was a glutton for it. Like, he fucking kept having me put it in his cup because for him it's just juice. And so he put it in there, and it really helped them with their colds. I mean, they were heavily active and stuff. They weren't just, like, asleep all the time. That's why, like, when they said, oh, we are afraid they have COVID, I was like, I don't know about that. Like, they're still acting like their same old selves. Like, they're bouncing off the walls and literally bouncing off the bed. I'm not sure about that. Like,
well, that's last year carrying over into this year, too. It's the whole, you're sick, you're coughing, you're sneezing. No, I sneezed because somebody put too much pepper on something, or your perfume or cologne made me sneeze.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no. With Cass and Ari and Phoenix, they had runny nose, sore throat, fever, cough, like every single symptom.
But I'm saying basic, like BS cold. Everybody's like, oh, it's COVID. It's like, dude, it's winter.
I was even
People
watching
get
The
myself.
cough.
No, dude, people freaking legit gave me shit. They're like, oh, you have COVID. I'm like, no, I have asthma. Suck off.
Right?
Well, I was even watching myself to make sure that I wasn't catching anything, because usually the captain of the ship goes down when the entire crew starts going down. And
Right.
so I was like watching myself the last few days to like be like, okay, well, I've been sneezing a
Aw,
little bit
you
more.
called me captain of the ship because I went down.
I mean,
No.
I was gonna talk about myself, but
You
you're
said
like the
what's
co-captain.
captain
You're
of
like,
the ship,
so see,
so-
I'm the captain of the ship, but you're the first lady of the ship. Like, you're the captain S, or the first in command, that sort of
And
thing.
the poop deck wench.
I
He's-
was not
he's the
downgrading you.
king, You're the queen.
Yeah, I wasn't downgrading you at all. I was more
He
like,
runs the kingdom. You just make sure everybody does what he says, so that way there's not dead bodies all over the
it really
fucking goddamn
happens,
street.
because I'll sit there and come out and start like throwing criticism in eyes. Like, I side eye the shit out of her. I'll be like, I side eye the shit out of her, and then she suddenly starts changing the way she's doing shit, because she'll be like, have I really been on YouTube like 3 hours? And I'll be like, yeah, you have. And then she'll be like, I wasn't talking to you, babe. I'm like, oh, you were talking to yourself. And she's like, yeah, I was talking to myself. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you were on YouTube for 3 fucking hours. Get the fuck off YouTube unless you're gonna clean. And I was like, well, unless you're gonna fucking carpet clean, or she's like, you can't carpet clean. I'm like, no carpet cleaner. I'm like, well, unless you're gonna vacuum, or unless you're gonna restructure. You said you were gonna go through some stuff. And she's like, well, I was busy doing this and this. I'm like, you mean you're busy fucking around? She's like, yeah. And so we had
But
to,
that's a couple things,
Yeah.
too. It's like, what did you do today? Not a fucking thing.
yeah. Like,
You're lazy.
but
Not
it's
today
like-
was my relaxed day. Fuck
and
off.
see, I understood it to a point. This last week, I didn't give her a lot of help for it, because I was like, she's also sick. So I wasn't gonna give her a lot of hell for it, but at the same time, I was just like going, when I feel like shit, I do dishes at least. I do something. And I had to do the dishes twice this last week, which isn't a bad thing. I usually do them at night when they're asleep anyway. In fact, they'll get up in the morning and they'll come into the living room. I don't even know their reactions because I'm dead to the world, but they'll come up. And the reason why I'm dead to the world is because I fucking was up all night cleaning. But like, I'll go get up and kind of come out to the living room and see all the undoing of everything I did that previous night. But then chances are, came up and got up, went to the living room, and Amber's like, "Oh shit, he cleaned up everything," and she'll see like the whole living room all like clean and everything. Everything is all situated. We even got like I have like such a routine down for it, down pat. They're like I know that some stuff goes on the shelf, some stuff goes over here. I have like everything. I have it all situated in my head as far as where everything goes, and so it takes me like maybe like 5 or 10 minutes now just to clean up the living room. And most of the hours that I spend is oh shit, the bathroom hasn't been mopped in like 3 days or 4 days. And some of the people will be like, well, why don't you just do it once a week? Have you seen my children? No, you haven't. I have 3 children that are under 6 and they're messy and they're high energy and they will.
Plus, you got some animals.
Yeah, and they will wreck the world. Like they will wreck the entire apartment. They will turn the apartment upside down, and the apartment's only 900 square feet. That 100 square feet will be upside down.
Is it only 100?
900.
Oh, 9. Okay.
That's why I was saying 900 square feet will be turned upside down. Like, you will be like, is that what the other 800 feet are? I've only seen 100 feet of them. It's like, you think you've only seen 100 feet. You've seen the whole 900 feet. You've just seen it clouded with everything. They went ahead and they flipped that fucker upside down, then they threw it down the stairs, and then they threw it on the bed. And, like, everything's all everywhere. And so, like, I do a lot of, like, picking up with that. And, like, a lot of daily routines. I get so tired, too, because I'm just, like, walking around and be like, okay, 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 and I just do a lot of that stuff. It's just over and over again every fucking day where you're just doing that.
It's become your routine.
Yeah, it's become a thing that I do. Like I used to idealize me like, once we get everything down pat, I'll literally have a routine where I open up my laptop or I open up, because I don't have one, I'll open up the computer and I'll start like working on stuff and I'll get so used to typing up something, and then when Tim comes over or someone comes over, I'll be like, guess what I did today, and I'll get like excited. But no, it's just like when they come over, I'm just like, guess what I did today? They'll be like, what'd you do? I'm like, I cleaned. That's the grand sum total of what I did. Or I worked. I got a paycheck. And so it's just like,
Yeah, I'm not living in a dumpster.
Yeah, it's like I'm living in a decorated, clean dumpster that's Leighton ghettos. That's what I did. But yeah, no, that's what I've done this last week. Was I cleaned a lot, took care of the kids, helped Amber with the kids. Because before, I do have to admit that years ago it was a lot worse. Years ago it was like you come home from work and like the entire house, like the carpet looks like, you're just like, has that pizza crust been there for the last 3 weeks? Like it used to be how bad it was. Now it's like if there's pizza crust at all, it's because of the fact that I forgot to pick it up the previous night. Or it's because of the fact that we got done with all the pizza stuff, or we got done with all the food, and then I just didn't just throw it away immediately after.
Or one of the kids accidentally took it out of the trash can because they were curious.
Yeah, that too. Kids like to take shit out of the trash all the time. It bugs the shit out of me. But like,
But that's kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys say that, but it's like,
I know it irritates the shit out of you, but
there are things that have to be done a certain way, or
They're
things that have to be done.
not little adults, Thomas. They are kids. They don't understand that.
that's why you have to teach them.
I've said like 3 times in the last 17 minutes that there are 3 kids under 6, and so I get that. It's just we're trying to teach them better. Because before they only knew us before. They knew what we were before. They knew the whole like
Bad habits.
Bad
rebellion
yes,
against
the
the
bad
parents.
routines. The daddy won't clean anything because he's too wrecked from the work week. Mommy is too emotionally blah, 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 and so you get like that whole impression that the children have, and the children only know what they're told or they're taught, which is why recently today I went into the Nintendo DS Switch thing that Amber has, and I just committed the mortal nerd sin again. I called it a DS. Went into the Switch, went into the internet part, and went to go type in the password because Aaron was all like, "Internet's not working." So I went to type in the password, and I go in and put a thing, and he was like, "Wait, is that my name?" And I'm like, "Yes, buddy, your name is part of the password." And like I just kind of went like that, and then he was just all like, "Oh wow," and I'm like going, it's been that way for years, but you just barely noticed that because you know how to spell your name now. But like that's kind of like a thing. So he no one knows his name, like is how it's spelled. My other son, my middle child, Cass, because I've been working hard on like their spelling and like their numbers and stuff like that. And I know Amber's been working on it on her end. And I know this because yesterday I was trying to work on cutting the last few episodes of the podcast while he was out with her and stuff, doing stuff. And the kid brings up the milk carton that I got from Dollar Tree. Because I'm super rich, I go to Dollar Tree. Take the milk carton, put it on the desk, and I'm sitting there opening up the systems that I'm using to do the things, and it says milk on it, right? And he goes, K. And I'm like, thinking he's saying okay, and I'm like, yeah, that's a K. He's like, L. And I'm like, yeah, he's trying to I. And then I'm like, okay, he's starting to impress me. W. And I'm like, it's not a W, buddy. It's an upside down W. And he's like, I'm like, yes. What does it mean? And he's like, W. And I'm like, no, W doesn't. Does that go a wa or an M? And he's just like, W. And I'm like, is it an And he's like, I'm like, what is an And he's like, W. And I'm like, upside down W. And he's like, W. And I'm like, what about an M? And he's like, milk. And like that's what he did. So that was yesterday. And so now I know he was paying attention to me because the other like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I literally pulled out the carton to be a smart ass and was all like, hey Cass, what does this spell? No. I was, what does this spell? And he's like, what is this spell, kid? Is that a K? Yeah. Is that an L? With like a tail at the end? Yeah. Is that an I? Uh-huh. It's like, what is the last letter there? W. So it's Wilk? And he's like, no, it's milk. Because he knows it's inside the carton. And so like I was all like, so what does it spell? M? And he's like, W. I L K. What does it spell? Milk. I'm like, so what's the first letter? W. And I'm just like, you're dead set on it being a W. But anyway,
that might be also dyslexia.
Yeah, it probably is. So he's like his brain flipping it upside down. He's seeing it the opposite way that it actually is. So that's something we're gonna have to think about. But yeah, so that's the adventures. The last 22 minutes have been the adventures of my kid's life. But yeah, one of the other topics I'm gonna be talking about is going to be writing. He talked to me about doing that. He's like, why don't you talk about your writing? And I was just like, well, like, because I don't like to be like, but then he was just like, well, I've been about politics and everything else, so why don't you go about everything else for you? And so I was just kind of like going, so this is going to be a test of me to get past a bit of insecurities that I have about talking about writing and talking about stuff that I'm going to be talking about on my YouTube channel anyway. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, so as far as writing goes, one of the processes that I have, I know I talked to him about it the last 2 episodes ago, talked to him about it. He doesn't really have a process really. He just sort of was like, this sounds interesting. It didn't stick. Fuck. Oh wait, it kind of stuck. That's kind of his process. He throws
I'm
stuff.
random as fuck.
Yeah, he's random as you can tell. He bounces between topics like crazy, like
last episode was real bad.
yeah, like I was there and I was okay. So I had some guy Will. I'm gonna talk about this stuff because we're real with you guys, right? Like this is CrazyP's podcast. What you guys tune in for is the real shit. Like there's gonna be very little editing that's done when I actually like processed all the episodes. It's just taken a while to actually get to that fucking point. Not to mention the fact that when you're I'm gonna be a little unfocused for a second. When you're trying to take the episodes and put them into Adobe Premiere Pro, which is the software I use, the file type is MKV or something like that. It's a weird file type name. Adobe does not like that file type. So it makes me go the extra mile and use VLC Player to convert the fucking thing to MP4. That's what it does. That's why it's taken so long. And like you're like, oh well, if it only takes like 5 minutes, then you're still being a lazy fuck. No, see, you're trying to convert it, and then what happens is when it converts, the thing gets out of sync. I learned that yesterday, in fact. I learned that the first time, and then a billion things came up, and then it took me away from it. But yesterday, I learned it real bad because I converted it twice, and each time it was like either like wouldn't convert it, or when it did, like we played the beginning of it, and it was like, and like our mouths are moving, but the audio was out of sync, and I'm just like, that's fucking whack. It's gonna look weird on YouTube. And so I took a step back and was like, let's revisit this. But like, so that's what we're trying to do. Is I'm trying to get it to where it converts and trying to get it to where all the stuff is situated so that when we do drop it on YouTube, it looks good. It has decent transitions. There's gonna be like a Tarantino feel to it. Like it's not gonna have theme music or anything. So
Not
like,
yet. We're still working on
yeah.
that.
So if you're still like, if you're gonna expect us to be like or something like that, something identifiably us, it's gonna take a minute. But I'm at least gonna get like the slides down. Yeah, we're still working on an intro type thing. But basically, we're trying to work on making this thing an actual show rather than just like an episode we record where we just like do a bunch of random stuff. Like it's gonna be random stuff, and that's probably what your guys are tuning in for. But at the same time, it's also gonna be us trying to find a focus so that we can be a show essentially. But yeah, so as far as this goes, my process when it comes to writing is not the way his is. Like he throws stuff at a wall and sees it of a stick. I used to do that. And then I'd find myself into the immortal black hole that is called writing purgatory, where you sit there and you write a story, you get to a certain point, and then you just sit on it for months because you're like not sure where the fuck to go. And then it ends up sitting there forever, and then you turn around and you find out you're stuck, and then you end up rebooting it because it's been like a year, it's been 2 years, and you're like still working on the same fucking thing, and everyone's like, where are they, why aren't you done with it? And you're just like, fuck. So I used to do that. Now I use what is called the 12-act structure, which is really a micro version of the 3-act structure, which is the hero's tale. So for me, I will sit there and I've had multiple narrators. I don't seem to be in chat yet. There's
notification.
there's like one person that's watching. Hi guys, it's one person. Hi, it might be the same guy from last week.
On Twitch. Tell us who you are in chat real quick.
Yeah, let us know. Like
I think you've been watching for like the last couple of weeks.
You're like our most loyal streamer. We appreciate you. But like, yeah. So tell us who you are. Tell us what you like. That sort of thing. Okay. If you guys have any ideas as to what you guys like, think that you guys might like that we can do, then let us know. That way we can kind of.
You want us to shave our faces?
I don't want to shave my face.
Okay, we'll just trim it.
Apparently, he wants us to shave our. I asked you guys if we should shave our face. You'll probably get like a trim out of me. You may get a full face shave from him. Apparently, my wife says that she'll let me shave my head.
No, I'll let you shave part of my hair.
Oh, part of her hair. Oh, she'll let me shave part of her hair.
We just did the bullshit bottom part of the beard, not the actual.
Should I shave between your legs or should I shave?
Yeah.
What?
Kidding.
Oh, I didn't hear what you said. What?
I said, should I shave between your legs or should I shave the upper part?
Thomas,
I'm kidding. But like, yeah, if you think that, if like you guys think we should talk about certain things, you're like, not talk about certain things, but like if you guys have ideas as to what we could talk about or things that interest you that you might like our take on, like, this is the Crazy Piece podcast. So randomness is kind of what we do.
I got a suggestion.
What?
You talk about the fact that you lowered your price on your book this week.
That's right. I haven't thought about that at all because I don't ever think about that. So my price on my book used to be $5.99 on Amazon because like it's on Amazon KDP or it's on Kindle Unlimited for Prime. Now it was $5.99. Then I dropped it down to $2.99 because I was trying to see what would match and try to get some sort of consistency. And now, for right now at least, for this weekend and probably next weekend and the weekend after that, so basically January, the weekends, unless like I find out that people actually like that, then I may just stick with it for all of January and then jack it back up to $2.99, a whole $2. It's going to be 99 cents for a little while. I'm trying to see if people are interested in that. I'm trying to see if that's something that brings people into it. I'm also going to be working on videos that is me narrating the book, and it's not going to be like a Bueller, Bueller. No, I'm actually changing my voice. Like I'm going to be like Crimson Nightfall. Like I'm going to be like changing my voice, or I'm going to go from like down here to down here, and like just kind of try to play around with it a little bit. I want it to be engaging. Plus, another thing I'm going to be doing with the videos, I'm going to be adding some music, which I have stock music from Adobe, the Adobe website, where the Adobe website has stock music for free, which essentially is like really high, up ante like production music, which we could use that for this. But like right now, I'm going to be using it for the audio book series to create a series of audio files that are for each chapter. And so it's basically going to be me narrating the boys because I have three guy characters, and then I'm going to have lovely wife back there narrate the girls because it makes sense. I'm going to have her do the girls, and so we're going to create like our own little audiobook for the story, and probably going to end up putting that on Audible.com, depending on how great we make it. Like we're going to listen to the whole thing and be like, is this something that would be marketable? Is this something that is high quality, or should I just stick it to like a website or something? We're going to figure it out, but like that's the thing we're working on.
So you want to do the videos, but then take the audio out of it for the audiobook?
Kinda, yeah, is what we're doing. Either that or just re-record it entirely for an audiobook itself.
I wouldn't record it because the way you are in front of the camera, it seems to be like your natural. No, I want to be in front of the camera. So you being in front of the camera shows your true person. So I think that would be best. And then you just take the audio and copy it.
Yeah.
And use it and just stitch
That's
it together.
Fair. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing that. We're going to be recording it and recording us, talking to the audience and being like, it's going to be like how you're at a reading and stuff, except for it's going to be like interactive because there's also going to be sound effects and music and stuff. And so you're going to like be listening to it and it's like you're listening to a movie is essentially what I'm trying to do. And so I'm going to try that for the first book, see how far we get. And then if it keeps going and we actually really enjoy it, second, third, and fourth, and fifth book are going to have that type of experience. Yes, I'm writing that far. I'm plotting a saga for fuck's sake. But like, not waiting for a studio to say yes either. Like I'm doing it myself. Like I'm not waiting for some studio to be like, vampires are in now and they don't sparkle. I'm not waiting for that. Like I'm waiting for like, I'm basically just doing the thing. Like I'm making the stuff.
I hated that in the Twilight series. Why the hell are they fairies?
Not to mention the fact they're vegetarian. They're not even vegan.
No, see that makes sense to me from the vampire point of view. But the thing that it makes sense is why are they fucking fairies as in sparkly? It's like, no.
Well, why would it make sense to have them be vegetarian if they're carnivores because they drink blood?
Well, because some of the books I've read with the vampires who were like, no, I don't want to kill people because I got turned and didn't have a choice.
Okay.
It's okay, what can I do instead of killing people? Well, you have blood banks nowadays, but back in the old days, it's okay, I have to find something that has blood, but it will sustain me and keep me strong. And in some of the books I've read, or audiobooks I've listened to, it's they pick animals. So that part made sense to me, because I've heard that story or that,
Cirque du Freak did it. They did
Yeah.
they did animal blood, but animal blood was only enough to keep them going, to sustain them for so long before they absolutely needed human blood. So that was the limitation with animal blood and Cirque du Freak.
Well, I don't even remember. There was another. I know which story you're talking about, but there's another story out there, and I can't remember its name.
There's so many vampire stories. Have you looked at Amazon? Have you looked at Amazon and typed up dark fantasy or
I know how
vampires?
many there are. I mean,
Like,
there's been ones I've read. It's the whole thing. Well, human blood makes us stronger. Are you sure, or is you're not drinking enough animal blood? That's where I like the Twilight, because no, my animal's this because it coincides with who I am and what my soul sort of thing.
And it's fine, like having, because Twilight's Twilight. That's clearly a very sellable series because they've made so much goddamn money from that series.
It's a chick flick series.
Yeah, clearly they made some money, so clearly it was successful. That being said, I think it's fucking dumb if all your vampires in your world, like some of them, I could see some of them being, vegan or vegetarian, much like humans are, because sociology is a thing, and like plans and cultures and things like that. And but the thing is though, is Twilight was so small, and so like we're all in Forks, and then in one book we're now suddenly in Italy because that's where our coven is. That's where the council is. And everything like that. But like it was
It's like
so
DC
small
for
scale.
the U.S.
Yeah, it was so small scale. It was like we're in
For the
Italy, but
UN.
we're also in Forks in Washington. And so it's like, okay, so you're in one place of the country. And so it was a very small scale. So it was like, okay, so these vampires in this one family, this one fucking family, not like 3 families, not 7 families or whatnot, one family, the Colons. And they were all vegetarian and shit. And so you didn't get like a whole like different dose or flavor per what family was in the story. You got the one fucking family, and they're all vegetarian. And Edward's like got this superior complex. And he's like, I've been alive for over 100 years or whatever the fuck. And he was like, I don't ever sleep. And so I was forced to watch the first movie, so I'm literally just quoting the first movie. But like,
Well,
I watched
the part that I
Rift
liked
Tracks.
was-
So okay, so I've watched New Moon and I've watched the third one, and then I've watched Breaking Wind, parts 1 and 2. But I watched them with Rift Tracks, so I had someone else that was not part of the me audience or my uncle audience. I was watching it with them. I was watching it with Rift Tracks, so Rift Tracks made fun of it for us, so it made it more digestible. So we got to listen to some comedian make snarky remarks while we were watching the movie. And believe it or not, Harry Potter's also really awesome with Rift Tracks because like they make fun of everything. No one is safe from Rift Tracks. No one. Like there was a part of the movie where they were making fun of Hagrid and Harry Potter together, and you're just like, that's hilarious. And then they were like, of course they were making fun of Harry for having such a big bond with Sirius, and they were like, Sirius, you using up Harry as a fucking wannabe, and you're like talking about saying, your best friend, his dad is never gonna be Harry, right? Like you should know that right now, you dumb fuck. Like they were like, it was like this entire thing where they were making fun of the dynamic between Sirius and Harry. It was and like an edgelord 17-year-old me ate it up like crazy. But like but yeah, like so I've seen Twilight, like all the Twilight. I only bring up Harry Potter to be like, by the way, Harry Potter wasn't safe either. It's a thing. But so I watched all the Twilights. I did. And the thing I had an issue with Twilight, which is a similar issue that I had with Harry Potter after I watched Game of Thrones, is how small the world was. With Twilight, it was like you have like one vampire family. See, in a normal vampire movie, it's like okay, you have the one vampire guy who's the vampire lord, even though there's not like thousands of vampires or hundreds of vampires. You have the one lord, and then you have like 2 other sidekick vampires. And if you kill the vampire lord, you kill off everybody because that's generally the myth of vampires. In Twilight, it's one family, and that's it. That's all. And they're all mysteriously in Forks.
The one movie series I like is Underworld.
Yeah, I liked Underworld. Underworld
Because it's she killed the guy who made her a vampire, but she's still a vampire. Awesome.
Yeah.
You don't have the bullshit lore. No, you killed the guy, so now you're back to human.
And it's playing on the whole vampires versus werewolves too, because of lycans. And then you got the one main character who's like lycan and vampire at the same time. And then you got her. She's literally a product of the villain in the first movie. Like she's literally like descended from him or mentored by him. And so like when she goes up against him, it's like that familial bond. It's like the daughter versus the dad. And so like it's got that complex. It's almost like Return of the Jedi. Like the son faces off against the father. Only she's not trying to redeem him. She's trying to stab him. And and so you got like this difference in but you got this familial bond, and so it makes it kind of heartbreaking when he eventually does die. But like like I liked how Underworld was with like the differences, because like in Underworld it made sense because there's like a lot more going on. Like there's so many different vampires and they're all not all part of the same fucking family. So I liked Underworld, and I liked the Underworld series. Like I was really sad when they stopped making them because they
have you seen the fourth one?
I think I watched it with JB, my co-host over at the Gallus podcast, which, by the way, I haven't brought up that podcast at all, but I did a podcast with Jonathan Leday over at on the Bloody Streams and Cinema Macabre. So if you look it up on YouTube, it's on my channel, but it's you look it up on YouTube, Gallus podcast, Cinema Macabre, that sort of thing. You may be able to find it, Bloody Streams. We haven't made an episode in fucking forever, so maybe why it might be harder for you to reach it. But beside the point, we did a lot of horror podcasts and stuff on there, so plug there. Yeah, as far as Underworld goes, I watched it with him, the newest one. I watched it with him, and it was kind of cheesy. Like, and granted, I remember the third one. Wait, which fourth one are you talking about? I'm talking about the one where she's walking towards the camera nonstop, or when she's walking away from the camera nonstop, and the camera just like follows her. She's combating bad guys. It's like arcade
the fourth
style.
movie. I think it's the fourth one, or is it the fifth one?
You're probably talking about the fifth or the sixth, because I believe they made a fifth one or a sixth one. It's the most recent one.
Yeah, I have it at home.
We're like,
I have it on Blu-ray.
There was someone that was in a cage, and then like she was all sad, and then she ended up stabbing. Okay, and then someone ended up stabbing someone else. It was like a cliche Underworld type strand at that point because they've made like so many of them, so they created their own tropes within their own world. I liked that one overall. It was just cheesy as fuck. It was like sci-fi movie cheese.
Because you had the first one,
Sci-Fi Channel,
and then on the second one, she ended up taking the blood from the original immortal that was just, I became immortal, which was the father of the two sons that one went to werewolf, but not regular werewolf, it was wolf all the time, and then the other one was the vampire.
yeah.
And in the second one, the vampire son ended up drinking blood because they killed the werewolf above him, but because he was from the bloodline straight from the original, he ended up getting wings like a bat. And yeah.
So he was
and
badass.
then the third one was her waking up. Was that the third one? I think the third one was her waking up, and they're like, yeah, well, we have your man and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they had her daughter trapped or something, and her daughter got away.
Yeah. Well,
and then the one after that, I vaguely remember because I haven't watched it as
there
much.
was the one.
I gotta rewatch the whole series again because
There was the one where they were looking for him, her boyfriend, who made the girl, and he was missing because he was not there. And the real story is the fact that the guy who made the movie series, the director, got in a fight with the actor guy who plays her
Michael.
husband. Yeah, Michael. He got into a fight with her. Like, as much as I like Len, as long as I like Len Wiseman, he got in a fight with the actor who plays Michael, and because of the fact that Kate Beckinsale,
main character,
she's married to Len Wiseman, the director. So Michael, the guy who plays Michael, got in a fight with Len behind the scenes. It was a thing that was talked about years and years ago. Swept under the rug, and nobody cared about it after that, and so it wasn't really talked about. But that's why I know why his presence in the story was watered down significantly.
And why he was killed in the third movie.
Yeah, and so that's why like he just disappeared and just isn't around anymore. Is because of the fact Len was just like, fuck that fucker, I'm gonna write him out. And so so he put him somewhere else, and then was like, let's make it to where the third and fourth movie are about finding him, and it's like, So
and
that's
the daughter,
yeah, and so that's why that happened, and so now so the next movie was about her daughter, and like honestly, it's like at this point, I don't think they're gonna make any more of them. I want them to make more of them, but I don't know if they're gonna make it more.
Fairly well the way they did.
They did. They're gonna be rebooting them though.
Yeah, I've heard
I looked it up and recently last year, and I was like, what the hell is happening with Underworld? Because I was, you know how old I was when I watched first Underworld?
Nope.
I was 12.
Youngin.
Yeah, I was a little kid. I was a little fucking kid. So I went to go see it in the theater with my Uncle Brent, actually, who's now dead. And went to go see it with my Uncle Brent and my dad. And so it was like a dad and his brother taking his kid out. And so we went to go see it. And, of course, at that point, my agoraphobia, or the fear of blood, was so intense that when I watched the first one, it was so bad. That's part of why my character, by the way, in one of the previous drafts, has a fear of blood and can fantasize the blood. Is because I gave him that quirk, in which, like, I can't even look at my own blood without being like, and so that's why, like,
kind of like Mom.
So yeah, and so like when you were saying go donate plasma, I was like, put a needle in my arm for money. That might work out if my agoraphobia doesn't kick in.
You put the headphones in, you stare at your phone and watch whatever movie while they're poking you and stuff.
Yeah, the hospital.
Completely ignore it.
Yeah, the hospital. This last time when I went to the hospital for the ulcer, scared me away from the hospital forever. Like, because I was in the hospital and they were like, let's take some of your blood because we want to make it sure that nothing's wrong with you and you're not like dying. And then they were like, oh yeah, you were internally bleeding, by the way, you almost died. Just so you know. And so like they took my blood for the first time and they stabbed me and stuff, and then they drew it through it, and then they put like the IV in my arm. So I literally had an IV in this arm, and then I had an IV in this arm. Keep forgetting the camera's over there. The IV in this arm. And the IV in this arm was never fucking used. Which, granted, that's a good thing, because then that means that,
Well, then
it's
you
not
just have the
worsening.
bullshit
It's not
flexible plastic needle in it.
Yeah, it's not escalating, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
What's going on? We're talking about my experiences in the hospital.
Currently.
Mr. Alunian, hello, sir. How are you doing tonight? We talked about you, or at least one of you that was viewing us tonight. We appreciate you. So I was in the hospital, and I had a needle in this arm, and then a needle in this arm. And the reason why I have not really touched the idea of going into there, like anywhere where there's needles involved, is one, I had a tattoo, and I like the tattoo idea because it doesn't involve me bleeding nonstop. And
Right.
so they took out, but they take out my blood nonstop, and so I was either getting it out of this arm where the needle was, the IV is supposed to be, but the IV was attached to my arm and with a system with those little bags that hang down with the tube. I don't remember what they're called.
Your saline water.
Yes. So I had
It's
that.
basically salt water, so you don't become dehydrated.
Yeah, so they were pumping me. It was most dehydrated I've been an entire year. Because I'm terrible and drink soda a lot. But like I've been drinking more water, I promise. But like, yeah, soda addiction. But like I had the saline thing in my other arm, and so I had that pumping in my system, and so they would have to draw blood though to watch my blood count, and so they would either take it out of this arm, or take it out of this arm where where the IV was supposed to be, or they would just poke my fucking hand. Like I have so many different like needle marks from when they poked my hand.
Oh, you mean when they try to get these blood vessels?
Yeah, when they get those, and so I
I
haven't
can never hit those on my arm.
I haven't gone into it. I haven't gone into my experiences that much because it was like, ew. So like I spent like 2 or 3 days in the hospital and it was very uncomfortable. So like yeah. So like anytime anytime I feel like anything's going on with my body, I just get this insane anxiety attack from hell. But like yeah, so it's pretty bad. But
Okay.
but like but so anytime you talk to me about going to donate plasma, the first thing that goes into my head is pure sheer terror. I'm just like,
Why haven't you ever
arm,
told me that?
blood coming out of my system for money? Am I selling my soul? Was this what's
Yes.
going on? Like
That's why I told you, when I donate plasma, with as much medicine as they make with it, I will be connected to everyone.
yeah.
We're all part of the crew, and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, he was trying to sell me on all this other stuff. Like I'm along for the ride with the government one because I don't know how long I don't know how far it's gonna go. He's a do-gooder.
I do my best.
He does good things. I mean, he hasn't led me and Amber too much astray on certain things. He also like this version of him is the version of him that I like. 10 years ago, I couldn't
The
stand
real
it.
me.
I dealt with him. I tolerated his ass, but 10 years ago, I was like, should I trust him as far as I can throw him? And I don't know how far I can throw him. But like 10 years ago, there was a version of him that was like molded by his by his current wife.
That's where this comes into play.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
how far could you throw me? I don't know. Which one are you? Are you Super Saiyan or Brawly? No, you're Super Saiyan. I'm Brawly because I'm fucking.
See, that's the thing though. Superman though, that's a tough contest because Superman's red-eyed. Like he's pissed. So he's like full on fucking Kryptonian. So like unless there's like green kryptonite hanging underneath his belt, this guy's belt right here, the yellow-haired guy's belt. Unless there's kryptonite hanging around in there, he's got no chance in hell. Like this guy, like if you were to go by scientific analysis of how far that punch goes, like
Yeah, but
he may not be a standard human. Like the Super Saiyan guy may not be a standard human. He may have a Dragon Ball that's helping him out with his power, but
Well,
that's the only thing that's keeping his brain from becoming like
Do you know the
decimated brain matter.
what is it? The canon or the backstory they've done? Because they launched it on what is it? Z Fighters on the app on the phone. But
Yeah.
they explain it. Brawly has the bloodline before it was. It's not the Super Saiyan. It's the Berserker where the hair goes green, not
Yeah.
yellow. So what it is that's the natural state. What everybody thought was Super Saiyan.
Mm-hmm.
But they talk about it like, no, the ones like Goku and Vegeta, no, they have the tainted blood because they don't do the Berserker, they just go straight into Super Saiyan. There's something wrong with the bloodline. But on the last movie they did where they re-threw Brawly in and made it canon,
Yeah.
they showed Vegeta turning green for a second, which proves his royalty blood is actually pure. It's not tainted because he can still do the Berserker mode if he needs to.
Yeah.
But Brawly's Berserker mode with the Super Saiyan on top of it is the equivalent to Super Saiyan Blue, which is basically Super Saiyan for God mode.
Okay.
So he's the equivalent of that at basically level 2 instead of Goku and Vegeta, which is like level 6 now. If I remember correctly, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We skipped 4 on canon and go straight to God and then Super Saiyan God, essentially.
He looks really muscly.
That's the thing that I didn't like with that version of Brawly, is because they over muscled him, but yet him as regular, he's just like me. He's like, yeah, I'm here.
It looks like he's fucking like got like steroids coursing through his body. Like that looks really unnaturally fucking muscly.
Well, the funny part is, your wife, my sister, found this picture, and I'm like, that's like old school Brawly, which nobody liked because he was just a complete douchebag. He went from normal to, I'm going to kill and destroy everything because I'm enraged. Just like, no. I like the new one because he doesn't try to go into straight rage mode. It just happens.
And this like Soups looks like he's fucking like the
Angry as shit and wanting to kill him.
Do you remember the movie that came out a while ago that had like it wasn't Superman, but it was like a Superman ripoff?
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Where he's like evil Superman and like kills his parents.
Yeah.
Like, literally in the story, it goes from in original Superman lore, he saves Clark or saves Martha and Pa Kent, but in this movie, in this storyline, he fucking kills them. Like they don't hold back. He just by the end of the story, they're dead. And so, spoilers.
Yeah, because he basically went with pure rage and I'm in charge
with the anger
badass.
and stuff. And he was basically an alien from another planet, and they didn't really go into like whether or not they'd be other aliens or anything. And so far, they haven't talked about a sequel, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna do a sequel of some kind. But essentially, this guy, this Superman, is kind of more in line with him. So I'm pretty sure that this Brawley guy would put up a really good, decent fight, and then he'd eventually just die or something, unless he's like immortal somehow. Like it would be a really fucking that city is about to get fucked. Like that's how bad it's gonna be. Like that city, there's gonna be no city left over. Like everyone's gonna be dead. Like if they're both like I'm gonna kill you, then you know they're probably gonna die. Like if they have one of them has any remote resembling caring for human life or innocence, maybe someone will be spared, but for the most part they're dead.
Well, see that was always the funny part about Superman. No, you give a shit too much because what was it? The last part of this, I don't remember if it was a series or in a movie. I think it was part of a series where he's fighting Darkseid, and Darkseid's like, yeah, well, you can't kick my ass. He's like, actually, I've been holding back my whole life because everything, if I touch it, just with just my regular strength, without being super duper powered down,
yeah,
like I make myself, because everything's like cardboard, I touch it, it falls apart, I would destroy everything in an instant. And he goes full force and just almost instantaneously wipes the floor with Darkseid, which, if you watch the series of Superman and the beginning of what was it?
Which one?
League.
Justice League.
Yeah,
from the
because it was Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah, the series, right? Or the movie?
Yeah, no, the series.
Okay.
That he told Darkseid finally, well, fine then, I just won't hold back. Yeah. I'm just gonna wreck your shit.
You got
and
two
Brawly,
that are like
this Brawly in freaking Berserker mode is, I can destroy everything in reality and break the freaking time continuum and reality itself, because he has no control. He's like basically the Hulk that can fly.
Okay.
He's always angry.
So he has no self-control?
He has no stopping point.
Okay.
And, what was it? Deathmatch just did one where it was the new Brawly mixed with this Brawly. They kind of took the lore of both and kind of put it into one versus all of the lore of Hulk.
Yeah.
And he won because the way his Berserker mode is, he can keep going. And him burning out is just him, but basically the Hulk hitting him, his anger, he just goes straight back into Berserker mode, indestructible mode. But the Hulk, you eventually can destroy him because you keep hitting him, eventually you're gonna break the point that heals the Hulk, and he won.
Yeah. So a bit of background why we're kind of going into like the background image is one, we've never talked about the background image that much in any of the podcasts. We just sort of stuck it up in the background and then like forgot about it. But
Yeah, on
also
the
too,
recording, yeah.
but also too is he is heavy into like Dragon Ball Z. Like you would think that if he worshipped a god, it would be Goku. And so like
No,
because, like, well, when I walked in your house, I literally thought I was looking at the house of worship of Dragon Ball Z. Like, I was like, there was an entire wall of just, like, Dragon Ball Z. It was, like, the Dragon Ball, the legendary Dragon Ball, and then, like, Dragon Ball Z. And there was, like, an entire bookshelf, like, shelves just lined with it. And so, like, I'm not understating anything. Like, I'm not exaggerating anything. Like, that's literally what his house looks like in the living room. When you walk in the door and you look to your left, boom. Like, it's all over the place. And so,
special.
So he's got quite of a mythos knowledge of how Dragon Ball Z works, which is why when I was like talking about Superman versus this guy, he was just like, I know who that is, and he was like going into it. I was like, okay.
Well, I grew up on the Superman cartoon series, and then it was Justice League, and then Justice League Unlimited. I remember when those all came out because, I mean, I grew up with that stuff. I grew up with the original cartoon series of Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, when that all came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember that crap because that's kind of, ooh, they have a series now. Let's watch. And when I was doing that on PBS back before cable was in my house or we had enough money to afford it all the time, it was one of those weird things where it was...
Charlie!
Yeah! Random people.
Someone liked your video on TikTok, so I had to be like, Charlie, yes! Shout out!
But, no, I found Dragon Ball, some episodes of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z on Saturday, so I'm like, okay, let's watch it. And it was within the first, like, 4 or 5 episodes of Dragon Ball Z I found out, and then I found Dragon Ball through the internet when the internet became big, and I'm like, okay, I gotta find this stuff, find out what the hell the mythos, and I just started watching it, and now they're rewriting because the guy who actually writes Dragon Ball Z forgets half the crap. He's even admitted, I forget this stuff sometimes, so I just rewrite it or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they did that with the Brawley movie where they went backwards and explained some of the stuff that through some of the just filler movies that he didn't exactly write, but he's like, okay, yeah, sure, go with it. So we can make money with the Dragon Ball Z and whatnot, and they filled in a whole bunch of stuff with the last Brawley movie, Dragon Ball Super Brawley. I have it on my phone through the Funimation app. Because Nephi bought it, and I'm like, I want the digital copy, so he gave it to me.
Yeah.
But it goes through some of the background that they don't tell you about, or they've hinted at here and there through Vegeta talking about it. But they've actually gone back and fixed a lot of it, so I'm like, okay, I know right where this fits in. So I know everybody's power level, and even though now in Dragon Ball Super everything's so freaking power level, it's just bullshit. Okay, where are you? Are you God level? Are you just regular human level? Are we Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3?
Yeah, so you're trying to figure out like what their power sets
level
are
is,
and everything. Yeah, so that's his background. He like does a lot of that stuff. Plus, also him and I can go back and forth on like some of the DC knowledge and everything. Me personally, I've watched the Justice League series. Need to be watched because you were here on it again. I know quite a bit of Star Wars. Grew up on it. I was little 5 years old watching Empire and Return of the Jedi 8 million times till Darth Vader's sword turned silver, like the lightsaber turned silver. And then I was watching, I watched a lot of Pokemon, but a lot of my background is very Marvel, DC, and Star Wars and other stuff like that. When he goes into Dragon Ball Z territory, I mostly just go, because I don't know much about it. I don't have that big knowledge base nerd-wise, so a lot of times he'll go on about it, but that's why it's fun and cool that Amber found this image of Superman versus this guy, Brawley. So as far as story-wise, when it comes to Brawley, who the fuck is he compared to like Goku and like? Because I know Cell, I know Goku. I was I think 9 when I watched Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, And
Okay.
I watched it out of fucking order because it was just reruns nonstop. I had no idea what the fucking timeline was or anything like that. So when you and Nephi go on about like the whole gods this and Dragon Balls and all this stuff, I'm just like going, okay.
You're lost.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Okay, it starts out with actually Goku. He ends up getting sent to Earth. They talk about it in the Broly movie at the beginning by his dad because his dad, Bardock, fears that Frieza is basically going to kill all the Saiyans.
yeah.
But when they did the Bardock movie back in the 90s, he sent him there because the Saiyans were doing their job and they took out a planet so that way they could sell it because that's kind of what they were, the planet realtors of the universe.
Yeah.
But they worked for Frieza. But what you find out in the new movie is actually Broly, and this is also part of the Bardock series, partially, and part of the Broly movies back in the 90s, which was Mythos. It wasn't actually part of the canon. But he's stronger than Vegeta, and the King Vegeta, instead of Prince Vegeta, which is the Vegeta everybody knows in Dragon Ball Z, his dad found out that Broly was more powerful and had more potential.
So
who is readings?
So who is Broly though? Like as far as relationship goes, and like
He's the that's what I'm getting to.
okay.
The king
I'll stop talking.
saw that he had greater potential. Nobody can have greater potential than my son because he's royalty. So he basically ships him off to another planet or tries to kill him in the original. And his dad tries to save him in the original. And in the new one that has become canon, his dad just chases him down to wherever the king sent him to a planet off in the middle of the fucking BFE.
Yeah.
The universe. So, no, we'll just throw him there, and if he dies, he dies.
Oof.
Yeah. But they end up finding him in the original Mythos. It was Vegeta, Goku, Trunks, Gohan, and all the crew from DBZ found him after the Cell games.
Yeah, I'm recognizing those names.
Yeah. They ran into him while, I don't even remember how, but they found him, or the Saiyans that the guy had brought with him while trying to save Broly when Frieza was destroying the planet Vegeta, ended up becoming his crew, and they have this ship. And the original Mythos that was never canon, and because he was in the bed next to Goku and Goku always cried whenever he hears Goku saying name Kakarot, he goes straight into Berserker mode. That little, and that's what shows Berserker mode. In the new one, he was never around. It's just something that he gets that's part of his bloodline, part of his something he taps into. But his Berserker mode is basically, I'm not here, I'm pissed, or I'm almost dead, so full power, kill everything.
Yeah. Okay. So he's kind of like the wild one in the grand scheme of things when it comes to all the other characters. He's kind of like the guy that's
he has the natural talent with the Berserker mode to be as powerful as anything you throw at him because he auto learns while he's fighting.
Okay, so he's kind of like I wouldn't say Doomsday, but he's kind of like in comparison to like DC. He's kind of like trying to think of the character name the character that I'm thinking of. Trying to think of the name of them, but thinking of as far as power set goes, what you just said, where like he learns as he's fighting. It makes me think of the Exile, which is from Star Wars KOTOR 2.
Okay, yeah, no, I know that one, but
that one steals power as he's fighting people.
Because Doomsday was basically a Kryptonian.
It's a Kryptonian experiment gone wrong.
Yeah, and he's not the experiment. He was just born that way.
Right. So Doomsday.
So it's the same thing, but it's different than the rest of the Saiyans. So,
but every time
he's the oddball out.
Every time Doomsday dies, though, the way that killed him off, he becomes invulnerable to it. So that's the major difference between Doomsday and Broly, apparently.
Yeah, he's not indestructible, but he basically is because there's no way to really turn him off, except for to like electrocute him. Because in the new canon thing, just like in the old Mythos, his dad had an electrocutor.
Yeah.
But in the new one, the canon one, the two people from the Frieza Force, basically the people who work for Frieza.
Yeah.
When he was resurrected in the new Dragon Ball Super, basically find Brawly in the middle of BFE with his dad, and he has an electrocutor, so that way he doesn't go into full berserker. He can control him. No, just and it stops him because of the what it does to your body when you get electrocuted.
Oh,
But yeah,
just like
and he had kind of the same thing in the old Mythos, but it was a little different.
Yeah.
Because in the old Mythos with that necklace.
Yeah, the necklace was like right there, like right on the screen. Like
one.
you're pointing. Where's my hand going? Hi.
Yeah, but that's the point. That was where he got electrocuted, and they have a new
I'm
one.
doing Coco Melon right now. It's
Right?
right there. Where is it? It's right there.
Yeah, but the new one, it's kind of the same thing. He has a necklace, which had an automated electric to do the same thing. But in the original, he just ended up ignoring it because he got so far into the berserker mode, it didn't affect him. On the new one, it still affected him, but the chick that has a thing for Brawly basically stole it from his dad, pickpocketed him, and broke it.
Okay, so he's got a love life.
Well, yes and no, because we haven't gone into any of that in the new canon. I don't think they've hit that in the manga yet or gone to that, because at the end of the Brawly movie, Goku's like, no, I'd actually like to spar with you. Mm-hmm. Here's this to help you out so that way you're not starving and whatnot. Finds him because Goku, between when he gets Super Saiyan and Namek is destroyed, and when he comes back, learns instant transmission, so he just basically honed into Brawly's energy, and at the end of the movie, zaps to where there he is. Okay, and then he disappears.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you guys just got a giant injection of like Dragon Ball Z knowledge. Now, if you guys already knew all that, that's awesome. That way you can just fan out with him, like because your guys aren't.
Well, you asked.
So you guys can fangasm with him while he's talking about it. But if you don't already know that, you just learned some shit. Like you just got some fucking knowledge to go in that brainium of yours. I guess I just called it a brainium and not a cranium. So no, I did ask. I wanted to know. I was like, who the fuck is this guy that's fighting Superman, and why should I care? But like, yeah. So that's part of. See, when I was talking about like 30 minutes ago, I was talking about content creation, like creating stories and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Part of it is figuring out like who these characters are, and when you're just like, oh yeah, he's just a rage monster. He just goes up and fights things. The reason why the Hulk is so interesting as a character, at least to me, is that he's got that, I want to be a decent person, and I want to be, this scientist, because that's what I started out as. I was Bruce Banner, the scientist, who was trying to cure disease and cure things, and I was working in radiation, because I was trying to learn how to cure cancer and cure all these other different diseases, and then the radiation went wrong, the gamma rays went wrong, and turned him into Hulk, and so therefore his love life with Betty, his love life in general, just went gone. Every time that he goes into a Hulk Rage Monster, her daddy-o hates him, can't stand him, and so he's got that love life that he can't seem to have, and he's got that whole like sufferer's complex, like survivor's complex, in which he survives just about everything he goes up against, but everybody else around him tends to die, and so he's got that hero's complex as well, and that's part of what makes him so interesting as a character. And so when you're creating a character that's like nearly unstoppable, you have to stop a unstoppable force with an immovable object. And the immovable object in Hulk's world is love. The immovable object is the lack of being able to love, lack of being able to be a human being, lack of being able to be a normal Bruce Banner. And then what you have is this unending fight, internal fight, war between man and beast, because you have Hulk, who's like puny Banner, and then you got Banner, who's like monster Hulk, and so you've got like this giant war of Jekyll and Hyde, in which Hulk is constantly like he's got this whole duality thing going on where the Bruce Banner starts and then Bruce Banner ends with Hulk, and so you have like where the things connect, and they captured that in the MCU. They captured that in Infinity War and Endgame. Oh, yeah. And then they also captured that in Thor Ragnarok a lot. Like, they touched on it in The Incredible Hulk, But the Incredible Hulk was about Bruce trying to master control over his chi. And so later on, they finally got to it in Avengers, and then they touched more on it in the future movies. And so they did touch on that, and then eventually becomes Professor Hulk. But like that's the thing. The reason why I was talking about Hulk a lot is because Brawly here apparently is like a Dragon Ball Z's answer to Hulk, except for different.
Equivalent, yeah.
And so what I'm trying to get at here is that when it comes to content creation and story creation, which will actually help you with your cyborg, is figuring out like what makes the cyborg tick, like what gets him going or her or whatever, like what gets them going, what do they believe in, who are they, what's their conflict, do they have a conflict, is it more external or is it internal? Internals are always usually fascinating to the reader because the reader themselves are dealing with the internal conflict themselves, and so they can humanize or understand. And so technically the character is being humanized by the reader. They're not necessarily being humanized by you, per se. They're being humanized by the reader. Me, what I did with Violus, for instance, one of my characters in the story, is he is kind of like the rebellious vampire who is asking the question of, can you redeem a monster? And in a lot of his life, he's got his dad, who is a rapist of his sister, and is a gangster mogul. So it's kind of like bringing in a bit of the Godfather and a bit of those mob stories into this demon world. His dad's a drug mogul and is in business with Kresh and in business with Murdrin, who is the demon guy that's inside Orpheus in his head. And so he's kind of like got that mild possession thing going on, which was what leads to the stuff that happens to Miles' sister. And so the storyline that's going on with Violus, the interplay in his head is, am I a monster? Am I just like my father? Am I my father? Am I destined to become my father when I get older? And it's playing on the idea of like we eventually become our parents. It's playing on the idea of like we eventually grow up to either become our parents or try to become better than our parents. And then we end up having just enough hubris to believe that we're just different enough to narrowly avoid becoming just like our parents or becoming better than them. Like we have that hubris, that stubborn hubris that tells us, "Oh yeah, we're so much better than them." And then we end up replicating them, or we end up copying them, or we end up finding out that we're doing things very similarly to them. But then we tell ourselves and convince ourselves we're different enough. And so Violus was my way of being like, let's explore just how different Violus is going to be from Orpheus. Let's figure out, like, in this situation, would Violus do it this way, or would Orpheus do it this way? And so I had that going on in my head when I was creating him. But in the story of Violus, he's believing that it's all Violus. It's all him. Which technically his name in the story is actually Jeremiah, by the way. But by the end of the first chapter, by his first chapter, which is chapter 5, or no, 4, by the end of that chapter, he ends up killing someone who he believes is a criminal, and it haunts him, and he ends up creating this Violus personality. And so in the story is about him learning about what makes a monster, and figuring out if by the end of the story, which I won't spoil anything else, but by the end of the story, it's about figuring out just what makes a monster a monster. And that's a question I ask because the very first paragraph, very beginning of the story, the very first chapter, very last word in the first paragraph is monsters. And we're dealing with demons, we're dealing with, mogul, criminal people, we're dealing with a fucking psychopathic queen of the fairies, and Sam, one of the other narrators, Peter's cousin, she's a fairy, and her grandmother is obsessed with fairy purity. So we're answering the question of, can you redeem a monster? Because it's going to be a universal question of, can Alex be redeemed? Is Alex too far? Do we need to just kill off Alex and that solves the problem? What happens when Alex gets what she wants? Does she destroy the entire world? Can they regroup? Like, it's this whole thing of like the balancing of the human heart. And when a lot of your characters are not even fully human, is there a balance to be achieved? Are they truly all monsters? And what's funny is you can also figure out that same universal question in Brawly and in Superman, because Superman's an alien, and yet he works at the Daily Planet as Clark Kent.
Well, that's kind of where the mythos for the new Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z, the next part.
Yeah.
Because in the new mythos, one of the Saiyans from the next universe over is just like Brawly with the Berserker mode,
Yeah.
but she learns how to control it. And that's kind of where it's like, okay. And then they brought in Brawly, so, okay, is he going to learn how to control it? Does he want to really control it? And they show that he wants to control it.
Okay.
He basically is like, I'm the Hulk, but I want to be Bruce Banner or Professor Hulk.
Yeah.
I want to be able to control it so that way I can use that unlimited power I have without just being a blind, destroy everything.
Yeah.
It's the same equivalent. That's why I like the new Brawly better than the old one.
So the old Brawly was like, we're just gonna create this rage monster that destroys everything, and then not like give him an ounce of character involvement.
Yeah, basically.
Like he has the emotional range of a teaspoon, just like Hermione tells her on in book 5. He's like, you have the emotional range of a teaspoon, and Ron's just like, what are you talking about? Blimey, Hermione.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the same thing. That's why it's like, okay, no, we need to fix that because the last Brawly kind of sucked and everybody knew it. Yes, he's a big badass and he can destroy everything and anything, but there's no real personality to him.
Yeah.
He's just, I will kill everything, I will destroy you all.
Yeah. So
and the new one's like,
go ahead.
I go there, but I don't want to go there.
Okay.
He knows that's where he's going to go in the end, but he's like, I don't want to go there. I want to be able to control it, not just black out and try to destroy everything and anything.
Yeah. So you notice how, like, I only spoiled, like, the first chapter of Violet? Like, you'll have to read to figure out what happens after that point and figure out, was the guy that he killed truly innocent or was he a criminal? Like, that's another thing I play on. Because, like, in most stories, when it comes to criminals, monsters, and things like that, when you're trying to define the line between good and evil, and when you're trying to figure out like what in this world, what makes a hero or makes a villain a villain. And so in most stories, it's just done and done. Kills the guy, it's over, done. In my story, I was like, was he truly a bad guy, or was he a good guy?
Who just ended up killing somebody worse?
Yeah. Is he got family? Like that's the thing I wanted to think about was I was like, does this guy have a family? And if we're dealing with gangsters here, we're dealing with mobsters and moguls and things like that, is the guy connected? And in the story, in that particular chapter, he's the guy in red. Like that's what Violet is looking for. He's looking for the guy in red. And you know, in the picture file, the way that Orpheus frames the guy's file, is that he's clearly a bad guy and he's been involved in trafficking and other things. And so, obviously, he's bad. Right? Question mark? Right? And so, it leads you to think, you know, is everything as it seems, or is there something beneath the surface? Something that is brewing that we don't know yet. And it plays on, there's like a subtext there that I'm playing on with society, on the fact that every time we hear anything in the news, we hear anything on media, we hear anything when it comes to important, you know, politicians or important people that we're told are important via the news and stuff like that, or whether it has to do with like billionaires or moguls or people that rise in power, or they have like their fall from grace, that sort of thing. They always like there's always something we always find out something that's beneath the surface that was buried, or that wasn't dug up, or wasn't peeled up. And so when I write anything, I like to dig behind those layers. I like to like take like a scalpel and surgically remove the fat and like the other stuff that's blocking it to figure out like where's the gears? How does this heart move? Like what is going on here? And then I try to figure out, you know, where are we gonna go? Like what's next? Where do we go from here? And what did this character just deal with? And that's the thing that's part of my process. I was talking about that before. I was like, I'm gonna go into the process a bit. Talk about the balance of the human heart. I talk about the hero's journey. And in my story, it's more the anti-hero's journey, because they're not really heroes. Like, we call them heroes because they're protagonists, but they're more anti-heroes, because they're not like rushing out to save people. Like, they're not. Like, Violet is more concerned about saving his family and his friends. Peter's more concerned about, you know, making sure that Virema's okay, her other friend, the protagonist. They're all very concerned about saving her twin sister who's stuck in a tablet. But they don't exactly go around patrolling the streets looking for innocents to save. Or they don't go around looking for people that are in trouble. The only one that really does, you know, if you really think about it, is Sam. And technically, I'm going to be giving her a serial rapist killer storyline in one of my novellas, where it's called Mistress of the Damned, in which she is going to be wrestling even more with her mental stability. And I already said that her grandmother is basically insane, kind of a psycho. And so I am dealing with the fact, well, I'm dealing with the fact that this character has inherited in her her genes, she's inherited the instability, and that comes from her dad. And what's funny is her dad's not even like genetically related to her grandmother. It's just something that's on both sides of the family. So she's really just fucked. And so, so she's gonna be dealing with that instability going throughout the storyline, and dealing with the fact of, is Sam gonna literally lose herself to her own darkness, or is she gonna be able to persevere? Can she survive? Like, is she a victim or is she a survivor? And not even a victim to everybody around her. Not even a victim to Abraxan, one of the big bad guys of the story. Is she a victim to herself? Will her trauma overcome her? And that's something that I ask in the story. And when I think of terms of heroes, I'm like, Orion? When Orion's not going around with Peter and those guys chasing down demons, what is he doing? He's just working in a convenience store. So the only real character that I can think of that's really superhero-y is Sam. Really.
Okay.
That's it. Like, that's the one that goes out and tries to actively stop things. Like, there was a scene where she was walking out in the streets, and she's being, someone in the passerby is saying, "Hey, Sammy!" And she's like, "Hi!" And she's like royalty, but she fucking can't stand it, so she tries to ignore any of the royal addresses or anything like that. She goes around, it's like she's a disgrace to her grandmother, because she doesn't wear anything that dignifies and says, "I'm a princess." She, like, walks around and she looks like her fucking friends who are slaves, or her other friends who are not royalty. And so,
Commoners.
yeah, and so she looks like a commoner. And so she's dirty, her hair's kind of fucked up, and she's like, normal, regular human being, except for she's a fairy. And so she's walking around like a regular commoner, and she's insulting her mother every time she's around her, because her mother's just like, "You look like a commoner."
Did you kind of get that from Suki?
No, I did
Okay.
not. No, I just simply gave that to her. I was like, this is how she would be. I
You
actually
know what character I'm talking
probably
about,
drew
right?
that actually from Game of Thrones, from Arya. What are you talking about?
True Blood.
Oh, True Blood.
Suki's like royalty and didn't know it.
Oh, no, I did not get it from Suki or Suki or whatever the fuck you call her. I like that show, by the way.
Southern bitch who likes to bang.
That's
Shut
another
up.
that's another take on vampires that I enjoyed. It's another take on
That was
werewolves.
a good series.
I liked True Blood a lot. Like, I did. I kind of, the second and third season kind of grated on my nerves a little bit with some of the formulaic storytelling and some of the directions they went.
BS they pulled, yeah.
But, like, overall, that was a series I enjoyed. But no, I did not get that from there. I actually, if I drew that from anywhere at all, it was probably Game of Thrones, because of Arya and because of some of the other characters that are royalty, and they just like, literally, they're like being told by everybody around them, "No, you're supposed to do this. No, you're supposed to do quilting. No, you're supposed to learn things from the old man's tales. Old man's tales say you're not supposed to do this." And now Arya's just like, "Fuck you." And so she spends most time trying to become an assassin.
You're talking about the fairy and the royalty. So my thought was, because Suki in True Blood was a fairy royalty, and when she found out, was talking to the fairies,
get that from there. Nah.
You don't do anything, and you're banging vampires. You're not supposed to do that.
No, it's funny that it does become a subtext in the second book, especially. I mean, I'm going to be going more into.
Well, no, I mean,
fairy,
you brought it up. That's the first thing that popped into my head, because that's the series that that clicks for me, for the fairies being like regular humans and looking like regular humans. Is like,
Yeah, so that's an ironic part, actually, is the fact that Sam was the one that I originally pictured being like this surly teenager who's like doesn't have any interest in helping anybody at all, because like she's got her Alex and she's got all these other things. But I figured it was a great way of being able to show how different she was, and just how much of a fighting chance she had of trying to fight her own instability, if the thing that she's looking for, the thing that she's trying to do in her life, is not run a convenience store, not be a princess, not do any of the demon searching or anything like that, because her dad's already a demon, but she has no priority over, figuring out her linealogy. No, for her, it's, chicks are being, assaulted in my kingdom, and the people that are high up in power are abusing their power, so I don't want to really be in power, even though that would probably be the smartest option for me, but I'm not smart. Instead, I am this rebel person who just wants to be with one of my friends, because they're the most comfortable people to talk to, And so she goes around the kingdom. She's literally trying to do the very thing that her superpower is to generate radioactivity energy and blow people up. Like her power is literally to destroy. And so in the story, she's trying to create. Like she's trying to find a way to heal. And so
Flip flop.
and so
Okay.
yeah, so I invert the entire whole process of her character. I have this character who's trying to fight her instability, and who's trying to not be like her grandmother, and trying to not destroy things by saving. And so there's several times where throughout the story she's walking throughout the kingdom, and now they got the main story beats. But every time, but her main priority was to save the people that are being assaulted, was to save people. And so
Okay.
she's the most superhero-y of the entire group, and yet she's the one that's directly beneath the villain, like one of the big villains. She's directly beneath the villain. So there's like this massive subtext of like hierarchy, power, what you do with it, who she is, whether she'll be a villain, can you redeem a monster, does she see herself becoming a monster, like that sort of thing. So you've got like this whole subtext, and it felt like a great parallel to be like, Alex is trying to rule the world. Alex is trying to make everything super pure, but she's not. She's actually doing the opposite. She's actually in massive opposition of her grandmother, and she hates her for it. Like they both hate each other. They can't stand each other because she's an embarrassment to the fairy ideology because she's not pure. Because Sam is half demon, half fairy, and so she is purely driven to stop impurity of like rule and like power, and she's there to try to keep things from going bad, but yet she doesn't want to be in politics at all. Her mom's in politics, kind of. Her dad's kind of like the redheaded stepchild because, you know, whenever he tries to speak, because it's a very female driven hierarchy when it comes to politics, her dad's like, and then he looks over and sees Alex, and Alex is like bristling just because the man's talking, and he's just like, and then like just cuts at the background, and then you got Michael, Sam's brother, who's just like, I know, Dad, I know, and then you got Alex, who's just like, we're gonna do this, and then you got like Ariana, who is one of the family friends, who's actually underneath Michaela. Michaela is the high priestess, the highest, you know, in stature, and Alex feels like Michaela stole that from her. So you've got like that whole parallel battle between those two. And so Sam is technically more like Michaela than she is like her own grandmother. So she's technically an embarrassment. And then you got Michaela, who is letting all the stuff go on and letting all the crap go on. Sam's trying to stop. So they're kind of like in opposition of each other without being bad guys. And so you've got like this imbalance in power. You've got this imbalance in power structure. And that's part of what leads to the giant blow up, the giant chasm that creates the whole plot of the whole novel. Is like that when it happens when.
So am I turning your life into your book because you didn't want to get into politics, but I do, just to try to help fix the system, even though I'm not a politician, so I'm dragging you in whether you want to be or not?
I mean, I guess if you want to look at that subtext. No, I.
Oh, I just saw it right there, so I figured I'd bring that up.
I mean, yeah, I have like my only major priority aside from taking care of the kids and taking care of Amber and like making sure everything's good because I'm a provider is to create and to, you know, tell stories clearly, obviously, and it's the most you've heard me talk about anything in this podcast. Is clearly to, you know, talk story and stuff. But at the same time, I understand that the only way you're going to make anything in this world, or make anything change in this world, or make anything better, is if you go for office, and then, or if you bug the people that are in office. And being a writer and being the guy who has control issues and being the guy that can create giant complex systems, it would make sense for me to try to create some form of legislation, or at least advise on the legislation creation. Because when it comes to lieutenant governor, from what I understand, they don't necessarily create legislation, they guide it. And so I'd be the guider, which would make sense. That's what I'm doing to you, guiding you. And
you're my in-between.
yeah, like you have like this giant game plan, which is why I've been probing your fucking brain last episode for your game plan. But you have this game plan, or you have this roadmap of what you want to do, your goals. And me, I'm just like, wait, stage left. Wait, stage right.
Well, that's why I've been also, whenever we talk to Nico or your dad, I throw in a few things, and they're like, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
We need somebody like you in office. I'm like, good. I'm not by myself just saying put me in office. It's like, no, we need somebody like you in office. It's like, okay. I'm not just speaking out my ass.
I hope that everything I've been talking about when it comes to storytelling has been entertaining for you guys. I hope that you guys have been enjoying
Oh,
it.
yeah, I hope so
'Cause,
too,
like-
because I've been over talking a couple episodes and I know it.
Like, I hope that everything I've been talking about is entertaining in some way or enjoying it. You guys are enjoying it because I'm also trying to practice becoming more outward about how I communicate. I need to move over a little bit because the camera's perfect right here, but down here it's like cut off to where you only see half a
Well,
hand.
that's why I was
but-
hoping that we'd figure out a way to do the green screen on there,
Yeah.
but it's not quite big enough, and we've been talking about extending it a hair
hmm
to try to fix it.
Well, now
so,
we got more money from like the stimulus. I can try to put some investment in the green screen to extending it or getting a bigger green screen.
Well, I don't want to. I just want to extend